Hello, everyone, and welcome to another day of LCS postseason play. It's been a banger week of League of Legends across the globe, if I'm being honest, and we hope it continues today with the best of 5 in front of us, pitting Team Liquid against 100 Thieves. I think most people would almost be disappointed if we didn't get the full 5 as we watch Bwipo making his way into the arena, the rest of the 100 Thieves squad as well, just moments ago. And as we welcome you in, I've also got to welcome Revenge, who's joining us today to help break down the entirety of the best of 5. Also going to be making a casting debut in game number 2. Revenge, how you doing, man? It's good to have you.
Great, honestly. I was really looking forward to this. I was supposed to come on earlier, but some things went down.
Food poisoning got the better of you. That's all right.
But yeah, I've been seeing you guys get the other pros on, and it's been pretty insightful, honestly, like hearing what they think and listening to them talk. And yeah, when you guys gave me the opportunity, I was super excited.
There it is.
Dope. Well, we're going to pull up some replays, recap a little bit of yesterday's series, but in general, I also just want to get your thoughts on how the postseason has played out in its entirety. We've had a number of upsets, a number of full 5-game best of 5s.
Yes.
Like, how are you taking all this in?
Honestly, this has been one of the most exciting playoffs in a while, because for me, one of the more disappointing things in the previous years in the playoffs is how many 3-0s there would be.
Yeah.
I feel like we would speed run playoffs, and this time every single team is like, oh, this is going to be a banger series, or oh, this was a banger series, right? And I think that's super exciting and super good for the league, honestly. Especially with the bottom teams, like the Golden Guardian series yesterday, almost taking the win on CLG.
Yep.
TSM taking the win on FlyQuest. Like, that's huge, you know? Like, the bottom teams, the 7th, 8th seeds coming in, it shows why, you know, this format's actually not that bad, right? Where people were really criticizing it before.
Yeah, and I think the time in between the regular season and then the playoff games, especially for the bottom teams, they get to see the top teams play, but more importantly, they get to work on their own fundamentals, is so important. It reminds me of like the conversation around you guys on IMT during the season. You guys didn't get that chance at the beginning, got that chance mid-split. What was the impact of that from you guys?
I mean, we had a roster change of 3 people. Yeah. We didn't actually get a full week of practice with our full players before the season began, right? Yeah. So having that break week, it was like, what, just a full week of practicing without having to worry about the stress of the weekend was huge. I mean, it was like enormous for us. I didn't even know what kind of impact it would have, but like teams could tackle a lot of issues in a week and just come out looking like completely new teams, because a lot of times teams looking bad is like a mix of a lot of small issues. Yeah. And it's kind of easy to fix those issues sometimes. You just really need to point them out and get to work on them. And yeah, I think that every team is capable of that in this league. Yeah. So that's what makes this playoffs like really exciting, right? When you watch like, like I'm even excited to watch CLG versus whoever the loser of this series will be today.
Right.
Like, I'm sure they'll come back stronger as well.
And I think we saw that yesterday, right? Because one of the big things that I had or criticized Golden Guardians for during a lot of their roster changes is like they didn't seem to have an identity, right? We didn't know where River was going to fit in. Yesterday they came out, they're like, we're going to play around Ssumday. He is our hyper carry. It worked out so well, and they pushed this to all 5 games.
Yeah, it shocked me because for me, I think for everybody, when we were talking about which one was going to be the upset of if there was going to be an upset, where was it going to be in the bracket? No one expected this was be the series. Sure, it still ended with CLG taking the win. The fact that it went to all 5 games and that Golden Guardians pushed them specifically playing through Ssumday and just through their bot lane in general and forcing Sivir, Zeri trades consistently with Enchanter supports, it made for a very exciting series.
And CLG now already through the playoffs, having played 10 games.
True.
They are being tested at every step along the way.
More than half of a regular split.
It's pretty wild. But it was pretty funny, too. Palafox in the interview yesterday being able to, like, take that in stride. Hey, more games, more practice, you know, like, they don't hate it, it seems.
Yeah. I mean, huge shout out to Palafox coming in clutch in Game 5, especially.
Yes.
I mean, he's been so great on a lot of the assassin picks this year, like the Akali, the Sylas. I mean, Sylas not being an assassin, but I mean, especially the Akali is just looking insane for the team. Just having these kind of threats to pull out in a best of 5, I think is super valuable to have.
Right, because we saw the Yone getting targeted out that whole time with the Akali being left up, and in the pivotal Game 5, he reaches for it and he delivers. Quick refresher on the bracket, how it all stands. We are at the top of the bracket right now, EG versus Cloud9 and 100 Thieves versus Team Liquid playing today. Losers of each of those matchups will drop down to face TSM and CLG, while the winner will move on to that September 3rd matchup. Also, winner of today's series books themselves a trip to worlds. A lot on the line when it comes to stakes in this one.
There's a spider actually on
Spider? How do you do it? Are you a spider person?
We're actually being ganked by Elise. It's a really big spider on the chair, by the way.
Yeah, he's chilling right there.
Keep it as a surprise. If there's someone that fills that chair.
I like
Is that a bad omen for Liquid, though, that he's, like, coming for the horse? I don't know, man.
I was like, is that what I think it is?
I'd be a little concerned
drip
if
of
I were
sweat.
team. Look, that can't be a good omen. Can't be a good omen.
I was tempted to kill it, but for now, if someone fills that seat,
kill it.
I'm interested.
No, you're not kill it.
Yeah, I'll move it offset if people are uncomfortable.
Look, I'm not the one closest to it.
One of us will deal with it.
It's chilling, right? I mean, it's been
everyone at home who just had like a lurching reaction to Raz said, we're not gonna let him kill a spider. Okay.
It's being a pretty good guess.
He's being phenomenal. Being very respectful of everyone's space.
Okay.
All right.
Oh god, it disappeared.
Let's start.
It disappeared. I don't know.
Let's start to reframe towards today's series, TL versus 100 Thieves. First, I want to talk about just a little something, a milestone that we are about to hit. Ssumday, 1 win away from 200 LCS wins. We kind of talked earlier in the split when we were talking about top laners, and we had Budge on, and we starting to rank people. Impact definitely being the person that most people look to as, you know, now kind of the godfather of top lane in the LCS and the longest standing member in that regard. Ssumday, though, trying to hunt him down.
Yes. Actually, what are your experience on that one? What are you thinking?
I mean, I think both players provide so much for their team, honestly, and I think that Ssumday winning the All-Pro vote was close, right? I do think that both of them provided so much for their teams, and the way I view rating top laners especially is what that player is going to give to their team, and the intangibles that they're bringing, and it's a lot that we might not know. So I think that from what I understand, Impact does provide a lot of like leadership for the team, and I think that we see that through their macro, we see that through their team fighting especially, and I think that what Ssumday provides is a lot of consistent laning. I think he'll always have certain picks in the metas that he's very, very strong on. Like, for example, I think now he's going to be a great Renekton. He's even probably going to be a great Kennen. And I think that we'll definitely see these things come out in the series and really shine for them. And he'll probably prove why he's, you know, up there in the All-Pro votes.
Now, as Ssumday looks to get his 200th LCS win, we thought this would be a good time to play a little bit of LCS trivia. I do believe, do we have a Kobe? Are you ready to come join us?
Get in here, Kobe.
Let's go.
No, I got a warning for you.
We're starting the game. So
Kobe, I got a warning for you.
We're going to fly Kobe in.
You have
Kobe.
a friend. Kobe.
Okay, good, yeah. I was going to say, before
I don't know where I'm a little sussed out. It's gone. So I don't know what happened.
That's what I was saying. You guys could have allowed me to kill it.
Oh, it's there. It's there. Oh god, it's scurrying away.
Here's the good news, Kobe. You don't actually need to sit down just yet, because you're going to be the person in charge of the telestrator.
Okay, good.
I'm just saying I have a shoe.
Okay, so
it's scurried out over
this
there.
is a very simple game.
What a warning.
I'm gonna try. I know, for real, right? I'm gonna try and get us moving, so we have plenty of time to break down the series at hand. Very simple game. Questions on the screen.
Okay.
Who has more wins? There are 7 active players.
Yes.
That is the thing you need to be aware of. Okay. If they are not an active LCS player, they will not be an answer here. Who are the 7 active LCS players who have more than 199 wins? They don't have to be in the order of it, but let's start working through it. You guys are operating as a team.
It's got to be Afro. It's got to be Afro.
So I actually know a bunch of these because of having to write the blurbs for LCS.
I'll just start throwing them then.
So I know it's Bjergsen, Impact, Afro,
One at a time.
Jensen. Sorry.
You can only.
Thank you, Raz.
I'll just say he can't.
Impact.
I had to look it up to write. That's the only reason
You
I
can
know.
abbreviate too if you need.
Okay. What else?
Jensen.
Jensen.
Okay. Is this getting Jen?
We have an
There you go.
encyclopedia.
I love
don't we?
it.
And then huhi and Santorin are there as well.
Okay. That brings us to 6.
And I don't know who this is.
Okay, this is the game.
I'm going to point out that outside of the initial Afro move, all of this has been Emily.
No, it's literally just
Also,
because I had to look it up.
You said
another
huhi
name.
and
I think it's
Santorin.
Santorin,
Yeah,
yeah.
Santorin. Okay,
So-
who is the final,
San, just leave it.
final active
What was the last one?
LCS player?
CoreJJ?
CoreJJ has a lot
Make
of
sure
wins.
you're all aligned.
CoreJJ has a lot of wins. Okay, so there's Core.
It might be a core because all he's done is win since.
I just copied all of Emily's homework.
Look, to be fair, like, I would have said those names. At least I only would have said Bjerg, Jensen, and Impact. I don't know about and Afro.
I remember
I'm not sure about Core,
was the one
Yeah,
that
because he
surprised
came
me.
in and like.
Who's been playing?
And this includes playoff games, right?
Yes, this is
Just
this
off
includes
wins.
playoff games. So it's just, but they're LCS wins.
Maybe Core isn't one. I don't know if he's been here long.
Just someone who's been here for a long
I
period
feel like
of
Core
time.
is a trick one because again, all he's done.
Wow,
is win.
I love
Sven?
this.
Is it
I
Sven?
These are more LCS wins.
Oh, actually,
it's
wait.
all
Sven.
LCS wins.
I think it.
Only
might-
LCS.
Sven?
wins.
Sven, let's do Sven. We're adding Sven.
Okay.
Sven.
Lock it in.
Okay.
What?
Okay.
That's an Evan line.
It's a little
Did you
bracket
guys-
right there.
Did you guys
I can't do it backwards.
Kobe is experiencing the Evan line in real time.
That's Sven.
Okay, that's Sven. Are you guys locking in these 7?
DSS.
I think we're locking it in.
Because this is a pass-fail. It's a
Sure.
pass-fail. You either get them all or you don't.
All right.
Okay.
Locking it in?
Let's
What
lock
we got?
it in.
Unfortunately, you guys are incorrect. The first 6 are right, but the final member of the
Biofrost.
over 199 club is Biofrost.
That was Biofrost. You
At
couldn't read
two-
that?
Yeah, it was Bio.
You couldn't read that?
The entire
Purposefully ambiguous. Well
How
played,
close
Kobe.
is Sven though? He must be close.
How, actually, yeah,
Yes,
I'll
that has to
I'll
be
see if
close.
stats can dig that up, and if they do, I'll let you guys know how close
And I
he
would
is to
like
that
to
number.
formally just apologize to Emily.
Y'all entered her
Yeah,
list.
we let her down.
I
But
didn't
then again,
remember
she
I didn't remember Bio either.
Yeah.
She took
Fair
all
enough.
the good ones. She took
All right,
the
Kobe,
good-
feel free to
Yeah.
join the spider back in the chair.
Coping.
We're coping. It's a good
Just make sure that he makes room
He
for
took
you.
Afro, like,
God.
Yeah, that's true.
What's cool about this is not only could
on the ground.
Ssumday with 1 win today make it into that 200 club, by winning the series today, he would
It's an
tie Biofrost at that 202 mark. So we'll see if 100
Oh,
Thieves
wow.
can get that done today. Now, as we focus in on today's series between 100 Thieves and Team Liquid Honda, let's hear about their rivalry from the teams themselves, beginning with the reverse sweep from Spring Split.
And it's probably one of the most, sad upper bracket finals I've ever played. It's kind of like we absolutely destroyed them the first 2 games, and then we managed to lose 3 in a row. And honestly, I felt like we were playing really good League of Legends the first 2 games. The next 3 games, I felt like we were playing really bad, and I also feel like they played pretty bad. So I didn't feel like anyone should be winners.
I just said that we should play like humans, and I think when we started doing that, game 3 and 4 was pretty easy, and then game 5 we go out with a banger, with a backdoor. It was a really fun series. I really enjoy playing against Team Liquid, and I think they're a good team with good team members, so I'm looking forward to our match.
We weren't really playing that well that day, and I don't think they were playing that well that day either, and yeah, it was funny because we both just got rolled by EG.
I don't know which reality Team Liquid is living in, but lastly they were saying in the interviews that Evil Geniuses is their only opponent and they think only good team is the EG, so they are focusing on that. But last time I checked, I'm pretty sure we stomped them in the finals, we reverse swept them, and last time we played it was a boring their style game and we still beat them. So bring everything you guys have, we are waiting.
There are people that, throw the stigma that closer always beats me when it really matters, but I don't really see it the same way. I feel like I'm also performing when it matters, and that's why I feel like it's really fun playing against them, because it feels very competitive, and I feel like either side can take it, and that's when League of Legends is fun to play. I really want to beat them. I'm really tired of losing to them, because I feel like, not every time, but some of the times I feel like we're also beating ourselves. For example, last time we played them in regular season, we're 5k up. It's like, I'm pretty sure like some diamond players can end the game like that. We just make so many stupid mistakes and then we lose. So it feels like we have the game in complete control. We're doing all the right steps, and then suddenly we just turn our brains off. And those losses are the worst ones for me, because I feel like the other team weren't like, they were testing us, but it's not like they were playing so well that we just couldn't win. It's like we were playing too bad to win. So I want to make sure like when we play them next time, we're playing well enough that we actually win the game.
Closer ever confident in the matchup against Team Liquid, and historically he's likely supported by that, but we'll see how it breaks down today. I'm curious though how the 4 of you believe that this matchup will play out. So we're going back to our tried and true, the report card here at the LCS. Not only did we ask the 4 analysts, we also asked the fans which of the lanes they think either team has the advantage. It is important to note that the fan percentages need to be taken differently than the analyst percentages. Fan percentages are just the percentage of fans that voted for that lane, whereas the analyst predictions or percentages are about the weighting the favor of the matchup. And so we're going to start with the AD carries, actually. And the reason is because this is the second most disputed of the categories, mid being the most, but we'll kind of close out on that banger right there. So let's start in the middle. Raz is splitting the difference. We got Kobe and Emily on the 100 Thieves side of things, and Revenge, you're actually over there with Ssumday. So I want to go to you first, because I think Hans was somebody who was kind of criticized throughout at least the regular split as an underperformer for Team Liquid, but you're throwing your weight behind him.
Well, I mean, for playoffs especially, with series changing and players getting better, getting worse, I mean, if you look at the recent performances Hans has had, he has looked insane and really consistent, even in a lot of Team Liquid's losses. And I just feel like he's one of the AD carries where if you do get him out of lane with the lead, he's almost always going to perform, and he's going to do not just like good things, but really great things and really surprising things that can completely change a game. And he's shown that honestly the whole year. And FBI has done the same. However, I just feel like Core and Hans recently especially have just shown to be playing really well together. And I feel like they have a more chance to leave lane with the lead. So.
Now, Raz, I noticed you went for the spineless 50-50 point.
Yeah. I have no spine, actually.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I'm walking to this day. Well, that's honestly, like, when I was given this question from the producers, initially I was right here with Emily, 55.
Careful, don't break the screens. Kobe's done that. It doesn't take much.
But the reasoning was literally Revenge's point. The series that we just saw from Team Liquid saw Ssumday as a demon, and a lot of it came off of the larger champion pool that he has. But you cannot ignore the consistency of FBI, and so I landed right in the middle based off.
Gotcha.
Bot lane has been so huge in all of these series. Obviously, I did side with FBI. I think we've seen a little bit more flexibility from him. And one thing I really want to see, though, because Hans is coming off a phenomenal performance, right, is whether this opens up the bot lane to more of those, like, hyper-aggressive early lanes, like maybe the Kalista, both of these teams playing Lucian, Nami together. So that's what I really want to see is, like, instead of scaling, I want to see one of them try for that, like, super early game push.
Yeah, I mean, to me, too, what's burned into my mind for Ssumday that gave him negative points for me was the game where he is Lucian, and he jumps out of the Baron pit over into the Tribe Rush, right into melee range of the rest of the team, and, like, he actually lost them that game. That one was just too burned into my memory to be able to give it to him. I had to give it to FBI.
All right, fair enough. Now, Kobe, do me a favor, fold in the supports, because I see you went for just the slightest edge to CoreJJ.
That's fine.
That's a spine.
I got 1% of the spine.
Healthier bone structure, is that what that is?
That is right there. That 1%, that means everything, baby. That is the old CoreJJ coming back. Because I know a lot of people have lost so much faith in CoreJJ this split. You know, everyone's talking about him underperforming compared to himself, compared to the own standards that he sets. You know, this is the guy that was lauded as unanimously the best support in the entire league for multiple years. And yet this split has definitely seen a fall from him. I still give him that 1% though, because I know he's got it there. For playoffs, he's going to turn it on.
I mean, I really have to agree with what Kobe just said about the standards that's being set for Core. I mean, we often forget at times when we set these standards for really, really good players. It's like they're also just, you know, they might have bad weeks. They might have like splits where they're not looking that great. Like think about Caps, for example, and his form now and how he was. But I believe that Core recently, if you've been paying attention to his gameplay, he's actually playing a lot better too. So I feel like this bot matchup is going to be a lot more TL favored than we think, and a lot of that is due to Core as well in the lane phase.
All right, fair enough. So from the split decisions, we're going to go to the top side of the map where everyone is in alignment. I don't think it's much of a surprise given the way that all-pro voting broke down when we had 4 members of Evil Geniuses and then Ssumday on first team, that all 4 of you would also index into Ssumday. But once again, Revenge, I'm going to come back to you as the top laner here on the desk. You actually give him the biggest percentage of all the analysts. So anecdotally, experientially, why is that?
Well, I do want to give Bwipo just a bit more credit than what's showing here, because I think he did just come off a great series in the FlyQuest series. And I'm minus game 1, of course, but I mean, for the next 3 games, Philip could not play the game. And I just feel like that I have to give credit to that. However, I do think that this meta historically is very favored for Ssumday. It's a Renekton meta. It's a tank meta with the Sejuani and the Ornn. It's even a
Gnar
and Kennen spawning in, right? These kind of champions are really, really known for Ssumday. I don't really think they are for Bwipo though. So I want to see how Bwipo would have to tackle it.
Yeah, that's the interesting part, right? Is that Bwipo does have so many creative pocket picks that he can pull out. I know we were talking about this as we were prepping for the day. We were talking about not only what Ssumday means to his team, but how favorable the meta is for him right now, and also just how TL has evolved to play as a team outside of that EG, single game where they absolutely targeted topside. They have kind of stuck to being a more bot-focused team with Bwipo slotting in however they want. Whereas Ssumday is kind of like, Closer's gonna go topside a little bit more. I think Ssumday is such a rock for this team, and they can pivot around him so well.
Yeah, and this sucks because I don't vote. I don't vote purely on projection. I vote mostly on what we've seen so far and how. But Bwipo, I think, has basically a whole arsenal to handle him, and he's the X factor of the series. We know, kind of like what you said, Revenge, what Ssumday is going to play in this series. I don't have a damn idea what Bwipo's going to play, but I know that if he gets counterpicked versus Ssumday, that's going to be ultimately the most impactful thing for Team Liquid.
Yeah, and look, you're all on the same side of the bar, but 55%, it's not to ignore how much impact that 45% can still be had, right? And talking about Bwipo as an X factor, you already mentioned a little bit the junglers and how they might affect those matchups. That's where I want to go next. A lot of people are going to be looking at Closer and Santorin as difference makers in this series, and there will be many questions about which of the lanes are going to get their resources. Emily, you went straight down the middle, so you start us off.
So I'll explain this because I think these two junglers are so different to me. That it's going to depend on how the series goes and how the meta evolves through this entire best of 5. The reason why I put it at 50 is because I think Santorin, he finds these really early creative ganks, especially around mid and bot, whereas Closer can be so explosive, especially in team fights, and then I'm expecting him to go top. So it was so disparate to me, and they're both so good. That's why I split the difference.
And that makes sense, Emily. What the hell's going on here? First you have 51% there, 58% of the junglers.
I do love your numbers, Kobe.
Yeah, you guys are inaccurate analysts. You only do rounding to 5%.
Thank you.
How am I supposed to argue a 3-point difference?
That's just lazy.
Why did it take us this long to get Kobe on a report card?
The fans know. Look at these fan percentages.
Wait, I love that, Kobe. You just knocked so much sense into his mic. His mic pack flew out. He's muted. He can't talk anymore.
I can talk through yours.
All right, 58%.
No, yeah, Closer, for me, for sure, there's just so much mental game that goes into jungling.
Yeah.
Jungling is the role that has the most mental edge, and especially in this matchup, I feel like you could hear it in the sots from these two junglers. Santorin is really tired of people telling him he always loses to Closer in these big moments, and those types of things can get into your head when you're thinking about going for invades, and you're thinking of defending, where's this guy gonna come from? What ganks can I go for? These vision games, these early plays where you don't have complete information, and so you are using what players' personalities you're playing against and trying to factor that in. Plus, the finals, baby. Last year, MVP of the finals was Closer. This man will come out and win you the whole game. Santorin, like Emily said, will do it in a different way. He's much more setting up the team, focusing objectives. He's a very cerebral player, but Closer has those mechanics to actually pull out Lee Sin. Boom, I'm gonna actually win the whole game with a giant insect or something.
Yeah. As a top laner, I'm almost surprised you're the one person who didn't go for Santorin, if only because if I ever had to play top lane against Santorin, in the back of my mind would be level 2, red buff, trundle gank, I'm gonna die. There's no way I could stop it, and that would probably just plague my nightmares.
But see, that's the thing, right? I think playing against Santorin is very frustrating as a laner because he does find these really creative ganks and he does play really heavily toward his laners. But I think that Closer is not bad at that either. I mean, the memories that always come to mind is what happened to Summit in the playoff series, where he couldn't play the game, right? I actually think that Ssumday and Closer have better top jungle synergy than Bwipo and Santorin by a lot.
I also like how he phrased that. He phrased
Yes.
it as what happened to Summit. It's not Summit's fault.
Yeah.
Top laner.
I mean, they dismantled the league MVP.
I mean, they did, and on top of that, what Kobe said, which is that what I really want to see from Santorin in this series is to actually bring out some of these carry champions. Like, I do think he does have the potential to play these things. He just hasn't shown it, and I think that can make the X factor of the series. And if he doesn't show it, then I have to give the edge to Closer because I'm certain that Closer will show it with the Lee Sin and the Viego.
Who do you usually see coming to gank you first? Is it your FlyQuest brother in Santorin or is it Closer? Who's going top lane more
I'm gonna
frequently?
say I really hope they have some Trundle bans prepared too because I mean, like. It looked like a free win for TL as well when he
Absolutely. All right, one final lane to discuss. It's the mid lane, and we had to end here. It's a marquee matchup between Bjergsen and Abbedagge.
Some Abbedagge
Again,
fans.
yeah, I'm kind of intrigued by that. I mean, I had an inkling just based on how I know all pro voting went for a number of you that this is what we were going to see.
Recency bias is what it is.
Let's start on the Abbedagge side, and then I'm gonna let Revenge represent himself and the fans at large for Bjergsen. So who wants to take the Abbedagge argument by the horns?
I'll take it, right? Because I've been defending him even when people were kind of ripping apart his laning phase and really going in those first 2 weeks. I thought his team fighting and skirmishing is still incredibly smart. I think his coordination with Closer is still very, very good. And then more recently, he's had just absolutely phenomenal performances. I also think it's a pretty strong meta for him. And he's just like, I don't think he's nearly as bad as people were ripping him apart for in the first part of the split because he was still absolutely a difference maker in 100 Thieves team fights.
Right, but not nearly as bad and better than Bjergsen. That's the part I want to get.
I think he's been performing better than Bjergsen.
Okay, cool.
The statement for me, I've said this multiple times, I think Abbedagge has been the best mid laner in the LCS since week 2. And so, like, he has been incredibly consistent. When he's gone up against those big matches against either JoJo Pion, he won that in the Azir versus Ahri matchup in that specific game and the second half of the split. Versus Bjergsen, I think he did quite well, but once again, like, that was in the regular season. And what matters most is what's happening in the playoffs. I just think Abbedagge works incredibly well in the meta.
All right, Revenge, get in here because obviously we work off of less data than you from the perspective that we can only see the stage games. We don't get the experience of playing against these people, scrimming against these people, and all of that. So why do you have that 60% faith?
Well, to me, it's, well, for one, with how the recent matchups have looked, where Bjergsen has been playing against Abbedagge, I think he has been getting the better of him, as well as I do think this meta is also very good for Bjergsen. And on top of that, I look at consistency, and I just feel like when I really sat there and thought about it, I have not seen Bjergsen lose lane almost the entire year. Like, I have not seen him really fall down in lane to the point where he was a problem for his team, whereas I can't say the same for Abbedagge. And that, to me, in a playoff series, which might come down to 5 games, which might be really close, that attribute is so valuable for me when looking at the mid laner, because if you do fall behind as a mid laner, especially with how some of the matchups go now, it can be really, really crucial for the team.
Especially if you're playing against 100 Thieves.
And
like, again, last team I probably want my mid lane to collapse against if I do say so myself.
I just want to note again, too, I do think that Santorin and Bjergsen do work way better as a 2v2 than Closer and Abbedagge.
It's really interesting because if you remember when Abbedagge first came over, too, they literally had him play Karma to Closer's carry champions, and we were playing carry jungle with, like, supportive mid lane. So it's interesting to see how it's evolved.
Now, we may all have our opinions on how the individual matchups will break down, but the reality is this is a team game. And it's about all 5 of these players putting it together. And so I want to know now, officially, who y'all think is going to take this best of 5. It's not just us who did the predictions. We're bringing back the full screen to involve a few more people.
Let's see who...
Boom. 16 predictions, and if I can do some quick counting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people are voting for 100 Thieves. The rest for Team Liquid. So I think this is a little bit more 100 Thieves heavy than I would have expected.
I expected
just a little bit.
I expect a lot more people to go TL, especially A, coming off of their last series, but then B, based on scrim rumors towards the end of the split, right? Where they're just absolutely destroying people.
Yeah, also, of course, it happens again where all of my analysts represent the same prediction, even though there are other predictions out there. I guess I'm the one TL vote that's up here on the stage today.
I mean, the thing I want to know is that there's a lot of 3-2s.
Yes,
I think
almost all.
Yeah, and in my perspective, I honestly still think that this series will go either way, 2-3, 3-2 for either team. I just think that, I mean, I gave my reasonings for why I gave TL the edge. It's mainly in the bot lane and even the mid-jungle synergy. But Yeah, I mean, I am surprised seeing some 3-1s, seeing just overall everyone thinking 100 Thieves as a favorite.
For me,
I do think it's going to be a series goes either way.
Yeah, I feel like the tipper for me was the recent games between the actual two teams.
Yeah.
You know, because when you're looking at them versus the other teams, there's a lot of variables here. But 100 Thieves getting that recent win versus Team Liquid, plus the memory still of last year of that finals, like it does feel like there's real trash talk too.
Yeah.
When we got in the lobby for the game, for the regular season games, even between these two teams, there's the most banter that we have for any of the pre-game lobbies, and it feels the most real too, where they're like making jokes, they're like ha ha ha, but actually we're gonna shit on you.
Well, yeah, and it's also very clear that the players feel it, right? We've talked about the confidence that Closer's very happy to display when it comes to this matchup, but it's echoed or mirrored on the other side. That Santorin interview where, even while he's laughing through it, he's like, yeah, haha, we can't seem to beat them. Like, it's something we'd like to do, but it just...
Diamond players could have won this game!
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, you do see that is at least a pervasive thought, right? And so, as always, best of fives, it's about momentum, it's about who shows up on the day, and then it's about mid-series adaptations. And I think that will be my final question, Emily, is as we've seen all throughout the playoffs already, when they go to 5 games, champion select and series-by-series metas become super important.
Yeah, so this series has the potential to be a lot different because, like I said, these two teams will go for pushing or early skirmishing bot 2v2s. Like both of them are willing to play those. However, one of the things that factored into my 100 Thieves prediction is that we've seen a ton of games going to these massive 5v5 fights, and that is where I think 100 Thieves do have the edge.
And if you haven't taken this as a consideration after the last 2 series that we had throughout the playoffs, right? With their banger best of 5s, go the full 5 games. Just remember the last time these two teams faced off in playoffs in last split, where it really was decided on some base race, dragon situation, where there's a bit of a calamity. These two teams, when they face off, it is going to be a little bit messy. 100 Thieves are far more aggressive teams, but players like the ones in front of your face, CoreJJ, a Santorin, a Closer, even huhi, will, if they are behind, will mix it up by finding ways to start a fight that, the other team wouldn't expect. So it's one of those things where people are saying 5 games because these two teams have the opportunity to mess things up when they're behind.
I would say also because this is the closest rivalry that we have in the LCS.
Yes.
Currently, over multiple years now, too, it has built up, and this is the most even one. Those are the ones that are really exciting that could go either way, and that's why everyone's predicting 3-2s.
I also think one of the reasons why this particular matchup is so exciting, right, is that both of these organizations have made so very clear that it's first or failure. Right? For them, their expectation is that both of these rosters can and should be LCS champions. This is one step on the road to lifting that trophy here in summer 2022. It's time for us to get into day 3 of our week here in the LCS postseason. 100 Thieves versus Team Liquid. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome everyone to the LCS, where the greatest modern rivalry we have right now is upon us. 100 Thieves versus Team Liquid. I'm Pastry, that's Jatt. Mark's here too.
This is the first time that we have ever cast together, Jatt and I.
Yes, and it's the 23rd time TL has played 100 Thieves since 2021. So they have played against each other so much in the past 2 years, and it is quite the rivalry. The all-time record that we were looking up before this, 15-7 in the last 2 years, in the favor of 100 Thieves.
So this is an old rivalry, new cast.
Absolutely.
Means it's either going to be the greatest cast of all time or an unmitigated disaster.
And already we're seeing a switch up in the picks and bans. So if you remember the first week of the playoffs, Team Liquid banned Yuumi and Lulu every single game. In fact, in the past 8 games, TL has been banning Yuumi right off the bat, so already a pivot to their strategy.
I think it speaks to huhi's strengths as a player. He is also someone who loves playing more the engaged style, has made his name on set, but even things like Nami in his back pocket, if they go the Lucian Nami lanes, like 100 Thieves was one of the teams that could play other styles, the Senna, Seraphine, and targeting him doesn't feel like really removing that much play from 100 Thieves bot lane.
Heard a lot from the desk as well. Obviously, bottom lane going to be pretty big point of contention. Already 3 bot laners banned. FLIS Lucian, Draven, alongside Azir Trundle on to round it up. But Kalista first pick. The gauntlet has been thrown by FBI here, and TL going to have to respond.
Yeah, such interesting bans. I mean, the fact that Aphelios is banned with Kalista, Zeri, Sivir all being up really makes you question where they think the power is, but it's because I think these teams are so familiar with each other's strengths and weaknesses.
It's super interesting. They left up the Kalista. That is something that Hans has played a lot of this year. A lot of the early game-oriented champions he put a lot of time on, but getting the Zeri and with all those enchanters up, it is a total mismatch in styles. Kalista, not something you often get paired with those, so it's most likely that, yeah, they're just going all in dive.
Very quick pick ban from 100 Thieves, and also leaving their support pick for later because your options are almost limitless for support when you have Kalista. It's even a possible Kalista Ashe angle that we saw from C9 last split. Huhi would be able to pull it off. He's played it before, so a lot of options still open for 100 Thieves, and we'll see how TL rounds out this first 3.
It also makes it interesting where you have the jungle and AD carries match. The question is, do they want to grab the support? As I was about to say, because Kalista and Renata are one of the biggest combos in the league when you have the Kalista. Them taking that away also means that they don't have to ban it out, and they can save some more bans for anything else that they want to get rid of for the Kalista.
Yeah, and at least now it feels like TL's switch up in the bans has at least worked mostly to how they expected. The fact that they dropped a Lulu and Yuumi ban that they had in the FlyQuest series, and then neither was picked up by either team, means they would have been wasted bans. So at least they probably feel like they're getting value out of the things they took out.
And then again, have to think, well, who he's going to play. The pool is very wide for him as a support player. Amumu going to be taken off the board. Swain taken away there from Urgot, though Bwipo has played it as well. Certainly a powerful laner that doesn't always get looked at, but I like to see the ban here for 100 Thieves doing their homework.
I think it's a really smart ban, especially since 100 Thieves is so dive heavy. Swain is one of those champions who you just cannot dive through.
Yeah, this is 100% telegraphed by 100 Thieves. It's an early game oriented draft because the last time they played in the regular season, they fell down 4,000 gold to Team Liquid. Yes, they came back, but that's not a situation you want to put yourself in where over the course of a series you're having to do that. So taking a little bit more early game power and such a telegraphed game plan of diving does mean that Team Liquid, with their bans, can target engage supports and probably spend these next 2 picks having things that can kite back and protect the Zeri a little bit more.
I think it's likely we see Bjergsen's mid lane answer right now. They did throw 2 bans at things they thought he would blind pick. Azir is also down, so definitely a large amount of targeting towards Bjergsen's champion pool, and they'll likely be saving the 5th pick for Bwipo.
Sylas on the menu, yep, locked in there.
Pretty good ultimate so far via an Ahri, so don't mind that pick whatsoever.
Matchup not too bad either in mid. Obviously neither other had the Ahri here, so we'll see what 100 Thieves respond with, because unsurprisingly, Bwipo is going to get counterpicked. So there's the Lulu and there's the Aatrox.
Interesting.
You don't often see Lulu paired with Kalista, but it will still be able to empower, obviously, Kalista, but not quite in a hyper carry sense. So actually very interested in that pick of Lulu.
Yeah, Lulu does have some laning strength, so I can see it in a double range matchup, given that the other team has Renata, that you want to have the ability to kind of trade autos a lot heavier, which is something that some of the engaged supports might not bring. So that way they can keep no way!
Bwipo always delivers something a little bit different. Generally speaking, the way TL drafts is they let Bwipo go 4-5, and then he decides on stage in the moment what looks best. And right now, if we're talking about anti-dive, Urgot is very good at that. If things get close to Urgot, especially when he hits level 13, that's a key breakpoint for when his passive gets down to a very low amount. He can just basically circle around you and eat all of your health indefinitely once he hits that level.
Also with the fear, if you're trying to be a little bit more defensive, you're able to chunk down the person who goes in first, like a Vi or something. You get all those shotgun blasts off, and then you can finish them off with the execute ultimate, and then fear everyone around who's trying to finish off your Zeri.
The other thing here is this is a matchup that we've seen played out quite a lot, actually, a while ago. Last time we saw this matchup a ton, Aatrox's ulti still revived him, So it's been quite a while since that happened, but this is definitely a matchup that is known. I think Bwipo is going to be very comfy here, even though it's a pick we don't see very often.
Yeah, both champions were basically the kings of top lane in the 2018 Worlds meta 4 years ago, but we have some veteran top laners playing that matchup today.
Should be fun. I'm excited. Bwipo always bringing out the spice. I mean, he's definitely got more in the tank. We'll see what happens as the series goes, but I'm glad the teams are kind of willing to scrap in the early stages here.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be such an exciting game one. A very aggressive bot lane, some counter picks in the top side. Starting it off with a banger potentially for what is the most hyped matchup rivalry in the LCS right now.
Absolutely. These teams play against each other so frequently. 3 best-of-5s against each other in the last 2 splits. TL won the first one, 100 Thieves have won the last 2, and are very slight favorites coming into this one.
And 2 of those also went to 5 games, some reverse sweeps snuck in there as well, so these can be some long, bloody series.
Certainly can, as teams are going to fan out here to open up game number 1, a very, very important best-of-5, not just the continued path towards a possible LCS trophy in the upper bracket. But a reminder, this series will qualify our first LCS team to Worlds. The winner of this is automatically through based on how qualification works. And of course, here in Summer, that is always the goal. But before we get anywhere else, we do have our correspondent Revenge, who is standing by with his old coach at Team Liquid Honda's Gyotto.
All right, glad to be here, joined with head coach Gyotto. What do you think about this draft?
I mean, it's... I think it's good. It's always good to have the opportunity of having a top laner that is actually able to pull these picks like Urgot. Finally, I have it and didn't have the chance last year.
I mean, all I'm saying is I wasn't watching the Fly TL series, and then I saw everyone calling Philip the Shy, so I had to tune in, and let's see what they call Ssumday this game.
Fly is out, but I still made it to playoffs now.
All right, good luck. I think it's a great draft. Do you have any final words to say? What do you think is the bot lane matchup? Who do you think is going to take it away?
I think that they should have the prior as a Kalista lane, and we are obviously gonna aim to be more on the scaling side. I think that we kind of inverted roles where you usually play for the early game and they play for the late game. This time is a little bit of inverted roles, but I think that them showing that adaptation and we showing this adaptation as well is what makes this series so interesting and appealing to every fan.
Agreed. Yeah, looking forward to it. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Yeah, it was a great interview.
So for context, if you did not know, Gyotto coached Revenge last year, and so the wishing he had a top laner who could use some counter picks was a pretty sick burn there by Gyotto, and right away, bot lane action.
Yeah, and also counter jungling by Santorin. He started on enemy blue, took the Gromp, and there is a 3-camp bot side clear by Closer's Vi. If he doesn't know that his camps were stolen, he's going to be heavily denied. If he does make the read, though, he should be able to cross somewhere. But right now, it looks like Santorin has a big advantage.
Going to be nice. Also potentially isolates the top half of the map, which when Bwipo has counter pick in this situation is obviously going to feel pretty good for him right now. He's got the early push, feeling good. His Closer's about to get the bad news.
This camp is up, and then you got some question marks over here.
And most of all, he shows up right before that ward expires, so
he won't even realize
perfect vision of him. He doesn't know the rest of his camps are quite gone yet, and this will give Santorin a lot of time to decide if he wants to just keep clearing back bot to top now, or if he actually wants to try and make a play knowing that it's uncontested in the bot lane and the push is in favor of 100 Thieves, meaning he might have an angle behind them.
Yeah, the fact that Santorin was able to pull this off is actually amazing. Not only did he deny Closer a lot of experience, he's also still on the bottom side of the map to cover for a possible dive, because a lot of the fears when you're against a Kalista lane is that Vi's going to make her way over and do a dive, or this mid prio can threaten a 4-man dive. With turrets being the way they are, it's less likely. Also, the fact that Closer is low level means it's almost never going to happen.
Little battle for the crab here, though, potentially. Santorin does complete the 3 buff there. Gonna go ahead and grab his own blue, but Closer will grab the crab on this side of the rift and give that bottom lane a little bit more security.
Oh, that's a good poke, though.
Getting a little dicey there, but you can see already Closer making his way up to the top side of the map to go for the double scuttle. With Abba's shove in the mid lane, he's able to take that shortened pass. Should be able to recover, and I'm really excited about this jungle matchup just because they have gone back and forth. You heard the analyst desk talking about how these players sometimes have more of a chip on their shoulder in this specific matchup, that it's not just tongue-in-cheek banter, but somewhat serious, and Santorin has gotten the best, or excuse me, Closer's gotten the best of Santorin a lot recently. It feels like one of those matchups where Closer is almost always able to make the bigger plays in the mid to late game. Last summer, it was all about that Viego, and this time, you know, he's on the Vi. He's going to have a lot of options.
Well, Ssumday is going to be spotted on the ward here. Santorin finishing this clear. going back toward the top half. Arbit did pop the Scry's Bloom, checked the Krogs, knows they were still up, so Ssumday had a little bit of advance notice here and does ward out Santorin as a result. Also seemingly pushed the wave back, so he's in a happy spot despite Bwipo getting a nice early advantage. But again, a lot of this early game is going to be back and forth. Like, yes, FBI and huhi want to play aggressively. Yes, there's push and pull in lots of these matchups, but without jungle attention, these players are very skilled and very aware of, you know, what can happen in any given situation. Unlikely to see an oopsie.
Yeah, they absolutely are. But one thing that is very surprising to me about the way this game is playing out is that 100 Thieves has priority in all 3 lanes. So that's usually a jungler's nightmare if you're looking at Santorin when all 3 of your lanes are getting pushed in. Because if Closer is able to find an angle to invade, it's very difficult for your own laners to support you. That's why I think his early blue steal was so incredibly clutch. It's what's kept him in the game and prevented Closer from being able to make any aggressive early moves.
It also kept the vision on him the whole time too. They hit him with that blast cone as well, so that removes a lot of the pressure that you feel when you have these triple pushing lanes on the enemy team. And it's interesting in context of what Gilhota was saying as well about how the teams have reversed roles in some sense compared to the traditional drafts from Summer Split. Team Liquid was the early game team, bot lane prio, a lot of that focus, and for 100 Thieves they picked a lot of scaling. Here, it's Team Liquid who want to survive those early lanes and then get into the team fight phase where they have all these late game options with the kind of Zeri as well as the Sylas.
And a very early first dragon is going to feel good for 100 Thieves. It's almost inevitable, though, when they have prio in 3 lanes permanently. So really difficult for Team Liquid to find angles based on the draft and how these lanes are playing out so far.
Yeah, makes sense. Again, FBI huhi doing the second part of their job, not just get prio, but also go over and take those objectives. Santorin, though, is behind here, expecting a possible counter gank here out of Closer, is not going to sweep out. Definitely had some machinations of a lane gank there, but is not going to be spotted, although perhaps he'll stick around for the long con.
He's just hoping to let them get it pushed in so they have a window to get some control in River or get something back in this game. Basically, all that was, I don't even think Hans Sama needs to shop right now since he's already had a recall. It was just so they can move into River and get that control work in.
Yeah, get the wave in, get the wave pushed in, get a little bit of vision control during that time because they're just trying to kind of contain this 100 Thieves early game, make sure the Vi cannot start snowballing on the Zeri. The fact that you are basically even in farm at this point feels pretty good for Team Liquid, given that you should, in theory, outscale.
It does, especially when we've seen other Kalistas absolutely run over the game as a nearly permaban champion. But whenever they get a little bit of poke down, you have to be fearful. Watch this damage.
FBI just going on in with the spears. Oh my goodness, Core almost eats it. Does dodge that incoming Q, which might have been the first blood in the 2v2.
Absolutely would have been the kill if he was able to land that, but that's why you saw Poppy covering, because when you shove in, you have this long lane for Kalista to just kind of hop down over and over again and chase you all the way up the lane. You saw that danger there. Again, though, they get out, not burning any summoners on either side. A lot of restraint shown right now by both teams.
And this is the cost, though. Closer finds a window to steal chickens away.
Nope.
Doesn't get all of them, and Santorin actually cleans 4 of the 8 chickens. So really, considering how heavily 100 Thieves is dominating the lanes, the gold in this game are feeling quite close.
It's a very interesting situation to look at, especially considering we were doing some stats.
It is flipped.
We're both stats nerds, and we were looking at win percent with gold leads.
Yes.
And for most teams in the league, you will have a higher overall win rate, or you'll have a higher win rate when you have a gold lead than you do normally. So if you normally win 60% of games, but then you have a gold lead, you're going to win 80%. Team Liquid was basically the exact same. They were around a 67% win rate, regardless if they had the gold lead or not.
And that's been an issue with Team Liquid all year, but more specifically this split, is they have actually the best early game in the league. They just haven't been able to convert it. And 100 Thieves has been the opposite. Their early game has been very average, yet they're sitting there with the 14-4 record. So their team play after the 15-minute mark has been exceptional. So the fact that they're starting this game with total control does bode very well for them. Now, they have changed their draft strategy specifically for this game, because a lot of their drafts during the regular season, you were seeing Ornns, you were seeing Aphelios, you were seeing Azir. Now they're prioritizing these early game objectives, have gotten first Dragon, have pulled off first Herald, and now it'll be a question of can they use their mid-game knowledge when they don't necessarily have the outscaling champions.
Yeah, they've kind of tried to correct for each other's strengths and weaknesses. Okay, Team Liquid was this insane early game team. Let's take an early game draft. We'll be better late. And Team Liquid's like, all right, 100 Thieves is this insane late game team. Let's take scaling to make sure we go even. And now they've just completely flopped sides. And that's why in a best of 5, it's so cool to see where the adaptations come from here, because someone made the right adaptation, someone made the wrong one. Right now, you're looking at this as an even game flat even right now, almost heading into 10 minutes. You're like, that should feel good for Team Liquid. But knowing their strengths more as an early game team, they've lost a lot of games from what feels like giving up some objectives they could have contested. Their setups around Dragon sometimes leave them unsure of how to proceed from there, and they end up just backing off. They can't afford to do that necessarily this game with the Dragon stack and already started up for 100 Thieves.
Yeah, on that, Crab is taken by TL, and it's a minute until that next Dragon there for 100 Thieves. You assume the Kalista 3 pushing lanes team does want to go ahead and take those Dragons nice and early. Bjergsen.
It's a very early swap. Bjergsen might be in trouble here.
Yeah,
they're just hoping he uses cooldowns on the wave, then they'll go.
Oh, ulti, just go for it here.
Oh, barely gets the knock up there. Now Bjergsen in a bit of trouble. Gonna get stunned into the wall, put in the polymorph, and FBI is just gonna block with his face. That is first blood for 100 Thieves.
Really nice wait and see there by 100 Thieves. I imagine Team Liquid was thinking that they'd taken a recall there, but they stuck around because Team Liquid had also done a very early swap, 10 minutes, and they had their duo lane in mid lane, and now they might lose this entire turret because the Rift Herald is droppable, but it looks like Closer will wait until next time.
Yeah, still has over half the time left on the Rift Herald. Just going to grab those 2 plates. Didn't want to greed out, I guess. They sensed members of Team Liquid moving down to defend it, just to get that Glitter Lance over the wall, confirm that Team Liquid is coming, and now you can use that for Drake pressure off this reset, potentially. We'll see what they want to do with it. Instead, Closer moving up to the top side of the map, though.
Yeah, it's a little interesting with Dragon being up right now. They took late recalls. You can see them running out of the base. Ideally, you don't want to recall within about 45 seconds of the Dragon spawning. They took that recall at about 20 seconds. So once they did that, they said, okay, we got first blood, we got a bunch of turret plates. We're actually going to have to lose this Dragon, and we'll see if that comes to bite them later.
On the TL side, have to think they're happy to stop the potential snowball. The 100 Thieves could have started with the Dragons, and of course, in their eyes, in this draft, they are the team that is trying to scale with this Zeri and friends. So it's going to be A-OK as it's another Hex deck. So.
I was about to say, dude, there's something in the water in North America. We just get Hex gates every game, and I'm not complaining.
It's the 5th Hex gate in the last 6 playoff games.
Correct.
Because the COG series rolled 4 out of 5 Hex gates.
I'm hoping for 5 out of 5 today, man. I don't know about you.
They are really fun.
When Palafox just going back and forth over the rift, like in front of the entire enemy team, I just love seeing the expression that people can take with them.
Bottom lane troubles potentially. Closer, as you mentioned, as the Herald just pops it immediately, knows that they've got enough to take this first tower gold. And FBI getting funneled, honestly, with how this early game is going for 100 Thieves.
This is playing through bot. They first pick the Kalista. They don't get kills in the early laning phase, but they do get a huge amount of prio. That gets them first Dragon, that gives them the window to take first Herald, and then it pays off with first turret. So the question now is, when they move FBI around, can they get this to be second turret and third turret and really stop Team Liquid from getting gold?
Absolutely. It's 1,000 gold up right now, but Kalista is a champion that kind of needs to be ahead of the pace of the game. She's short range, her damage can fall off, and so they need to keep this kind of pressure up. And FBI is a player who has had his ups and downs this year a little bit. Last year, he was uncontested, maybe the best AD carry in the league. There was a little bit of debate about it, but he was 1-2 up there. This time around, it feels like 3rd, 4th is more the conversation that people are having around him. Berserker coming into the league, obviously Danny having an incredible year. Hansama joined the league, has put a lot of pressure on FBI, and I think he is someone, when he's playing well, can play all the styles. He can play this really hyper aggro early game version. He can play the late game scaling, and I do like 100 Thieves throwing this mix up with him as the focal point early on.
Yeah, I also think that having FBI on Kalista is a little bit of a dare by Team Liquid. It has generally been a red side ban, so because I think FBI had almost defaulted to so many scaling picks throughout summer, Team Liquid is testing if he can still play Kalista. So far, he's proven his way.
Tower diving coming, CoreJJ, the one in trouble. Violty's out there, Charm Lance from Abba, and that's an easy pick up there for 100 Thieves. Is there an extension? Bwipo, now the next target. FBI is here, open up the top lane, see you later, Bwipo! That's 3 kills for 100 Thieves.
And this is so huge for 100 Thieves. They are just first to the play. They move their bot lane up here, they get 2 more kills, and you can see Team Liquid, they don't even have mid lane pushed. Just now, Bjergsen is getting that wave to the turret. So in terms of tempo, 100 Thieves is way ahead of this game.
Such a good job there, blowing up the Renata right at the start, too. Anytime you're diving, the thing you're concerned about is that massive ultimate, locking up your team under a turret, making them hit each other. But they identify CoreJJ as the threat, also not under turret, means that once they get eyes on him here, they're like, oh, we should absolutely kill him over Bwipo. Closer locks him down right from the start, sets up the charm. They just have him chain CC to death, never gets a chance to drop that ultimate. And now, like you said, Jatt, they have the inside track on the play. It's now 5 men diving just Bwipo, and they're not even really losing anything out while they commit all these resources.
And you could see the Team Liquid knew there was a threat. They just didn't realize how close it was. Otherwise, CoreJJ wouldn't have been there, and the other two wouldn't have been on their way. They were about 3 to 5 seconds late on the play, and 100 Thieves makes that split-second decision to go right away, and that's why it worked.
Also nice to see some synergy between Abba and Closer. I think there's been a lot of talk about mid-jungle throughout the LCS. Obviously, JoJo Inspired looking pretty good as far as the pairing goes, but that play especially, these two look in very in form.
And I know Abba was someone who was a little upset about the all-pro snub. There was a lot of talk about, oh, maybe a weak start to the split, and then a lot of people started saying, hey, he's playing maybe the best in the latter half of the regular season. And despite that, did not earn an all-pro nod, and he had a tweet about it. You could see that he definitely was a little salty, and you know what? If you don't get the all-pro nod, at least win a championship. How about that?
Yeah, and I also feel like 100 Thieves and maybe even Abbedagge actually fuels off that motivation. Like if he would have been voted the best best mid laner in the league, maybe they just lose, right? Because he would have accomplished and been getting the credit, but the fact that they've been able to channel any negative thing that is said about this team into motivation for the last 1.5 years is part of what's made them so consistently good.
Absolutely a team that wants to play with a chip on their shoulder, and they have these periods in the regular season where they seem to be slumping, they seem to be slow or something like that. And then they always end up in form for playoffs, making deep runs. You know, last split playing in the finals, winning last summer. So they have earned that kind of respect that, you know, teams sometimes do when you keep players around a long period of time, that they're a team that's always going to be a threat regardless of their form in the regular season.
Absolutely, and we have a really big fight coming up right now. There's about a 3,500 gold lead for 100 Thieves, and this dragon fight with the Hex Tech Soul kind of looming later in the game, very important. Team Liquid is in the river, but they don't have any lanes pushed, so they're actually in a pretty dicey situation, and I would rather be 100 Thieves right now, but Team Liquid is starting the dragon.
No vision either. Again, 100 Thieves, all the wards, got the speed shine as well. Ssumday maybe checking for the flank, if not just wanting to go for it himself, is going to be warded out now, but the teams are a little hesitant to pull the trigger on starting the dragon. Team Liquid, though, trying to make them commit.
I mean, Team Liquid doesn't have hard engage, so if they start the dragon, they have no trigger pull for when 100 Thieves moves in. So 100 Thieves is just contacting them in the river, and if TL goes in, then Ssumday's going to be on a flank.
A lot of spears in that dragon, too.
Yeah.
Thanks for the leash. FBI looking to get it. No, it's Santorin. Somehow gets it. Big Renata ulti as well. Santorin low, but 100 Thieves haven't found a chase just yet. It's huhi zipping out of the Kalista ulti, but not enough to lock down the Sylas.
It's a heist. Team Liquid steal the dragon right from under 100 Thieves. That is massive for them scaling in this game. They do not even suffer a casualty, but 100 Thieves still want to apply this pressure.
Going to be able to get the mid turret on the tail end of that dragon play, but at the end of the day, for Team Liquid, you have to be feeling pretty good. Down 3,500 gold. Both teams were basically on one-item power spikes, though, so that gold lead did not have a substantial item advantage anywhere. So it was a good idea for Team Liquid to kind of take a look at that, and just well played by Santorin to yeet the jungler out of there. The Renata ult buys space that you have time to grab the dragon and then get out of there. And so does stop any potential scary dragon stacking. The soul is probably no longer a threat in the sense that the game's not going to be decided at that moment. It's more about now surviving this 4,000 gold lead that 100 Thieves still has and still has tempo.
And it's still going to grow. This is the second Rift Herald. They've gotten the bonus gold from both of the first 2 Heralds that they've taken. They've gotten all the standing gold from the 3 outer turrets. And if they can continue this pressure and get to the inner turrets, those are the really juicy ones. And that's where they'll blow this game completely open.
This time, Team Liquid do bring enough people for the defense, but is it enough to stop the Herald charging? It is not. Is it enough to stop the next, though? Santorin popping the watch a bit early, got caught by a stray charm out of Ahri. Here's Bwipo on the flank, bottom side of your screen. 100 Thieves will happily look for the Urgot as well. There is no tower, but the damage is done. Gold not popped out of it yet, but 100 Thieves are going to go again.
Yeah, and there's no pressure anywhere else on the map, so 100 Thieves can actually just set up a tent right outside this turret and just take the turret.
There we go, Closer in there. Ulti's one. It's Bjergsen now going to steal the ulti as the rest of them go through. Zeri ulti pops as 100 Thieves. Maybe think better of it. Bwipo flipping FBI back in, but now Bwipo caught in the front side. Charmed up and taken down by the Kalista as Team Liquid have to turn tail to the base.
Yeah, Santorin caught out, though.
Bjergsen again. Santorin here. Ssumday maybe the one caught out on the other side. The stolen by ulti looking good, but it's not enough. Straight charm again hits. No! FBI's on a rampage extra Renata ult does not bail out Team Liquid.
That is insane fight for 100 Thieves. It's been so long since you see a 5-man siege, no Baron buff up in the top lane, but Team Liquid tried to defend, tried to punish them, and Bwipo with the re-engage after they kited out the Vial might have thought that they had the angle, but just too much damage and some nice charms by Abbedagge. The first one getting Santorin really low, so he's late to this fight, and it starts as a 4v5.
And I love the fact that 100 Thieves stayed to finish this turret because they know it's going to throw them further ahead. And since Team Liquid had already sent everyone there, they're stuck there defending it. Bwipo's like, nah, we've lost so much gold, like we have to fight back at some point, but they just don't have the strength at the moment. The Kalista's too strong, the Aatrox is too strong, and 100 Thieves run away with this fight.
Yeah, I mean, great cleanse flash by FBI to get out from behind the Urgot after getting flipped back. And then here, they think they might have the pincer onto Ssumday's Aatrox, but that Gore Drinker heal popped him right back up, baited Team Liquid into giving over a couple more kills. Ssumday, quietly 0-0-4, being on the weak side, is having a really good game.
6.8 thousand gold is the lead now, and Bjergsen has no flash, barely gets over that wall from the double left FBI. And Mark, every game where you have this Kalista early game team versus a Zeri late game team, there's almost this breaking point where if the Kalista gets far enough ahead, they can just brute force their way around the entire map. That fight felt like that moment to me. The only question will be actually closing the game because the dragons aren't there as well.
They don't have the dragons. They will have insane Baron pressure, or they should with Kalista. Anytime you can just sit in the river, stack up those spears into her. They have a lot of options to close this game out, I think, with the amount of engage that they have, the amount of control. So to your point, there is always that back-breaking moment. I feel like they've done it now already for 100 Thieves, and from here it's about exerting pressure. You can grab this next dragon, but realistically it's going to be when you flip up to the top side in about a minute and a half and start doing your Baron control, where you show how clean you can be with the Kalista.
Yeah, that turret felt like the moment for me as well. And now I think the next step is the Baron setup. It's just 21 minutes in, but essentially, once they clear away this Vision Baron, it'll be about moving into this zone. And if Team Liquid tries to contest, that's when they pull the trigger with Vi, Kalista, or Ahri. They have all the hard engage options, and Team Liquid really doesn't have many ways of hard engaging.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically Poppy find a good angle, or, you know, Bjergsen steal an ultimate.
And to illustrate your point perfectly, Jatt, 100 Thieves moving to the enemy jungle, closer threatens, doesn't pull the trigger with the Poppy W up, but it has been a very nicely controlled game for both sides. It felt like we were going to go even to the mid game. Maybe Team Liquid couldn't trust in that scaling. Instead, it is 100 Thieves busting the game open, and for a game with only 5 kills in it, feels pretty good for Kalista to have 4 of them.
They're going for Bwipo. He's flashless, and Abbedagge's got a flank.
There he is. Bwipo on the bottom side of the screen. Abbedagge just melee range charm. Keep it nice and simple. The whole squad's here. Closer's not even going to need to burn the ulti. It's Abba that picks up another.
Really like that kind of flip of the play. They were getting a lot of vision control in the top Baron area. Cool. They lure, obviously, Bwipo into thinking, okay, I'm fine to push out bot lane. And then they just attack and kill him. That was a really, really clever play.
And where's the counterplay? Team Liquid aren't going to rush Baron.
Vision control back the Baron area. That's about what your counterplay is at that point. You clear out the wards that 100 Thieves just invest in. That's the best you can do.
I am very curious what Team Liquid's conversation will be if they end up losing this game, which is looking highly likely now with an 8,000 gold deficit, because they didn't have any prio in the early game. They're arguably better in team fights, but how did they get there? Because they have no hard engage and no prio. So how do they actually put themselves in a winning position? And 100 Thieves has done a masterful job of playing with their prios, setting up in the right spots, but it really just feels like Team Liquid, yes, they have 0 kills, but like, how do they actually get kills with this setup?
It's hard, and when they were going to their 4-5 phase, we're talking about, are they going to go for more peel options to kind of just handle this kite back after 100 Thieves had telegraphed their hard engage? And obviously, Urgot and Sylas are not peel. They did not index into just surviving hard engage and being an annoying range comp that wants to kind of outrange the relatively short version of 100 Thieves.
Yeah.
They kind of opted into being melee versus melee in a lot of these fights. And so I think that speaks to a big question mark heading into game 2. Obviously, we also talked about how teams flip styles. 100 Thieves said, we can play early game, and they're kind of backing that up right now. Team Liquid, if they can't find a way to survive this game, I'm not surprised, like you said, if coaches are already back there prepping game 2 draft.
Be like, okay, we're picking blue side, we're doing something completely different. Because this didn't work.
But he's going to get hit by a stray Zeri W, but Closer just taking a couple camps while he can. 100 Thieves going to set up this Baron. No need to rush, but they have plenty of Baron power and damage here with this massive 3-item Kalista.
They do have to push Team Liquid into a decision ASAP, though, because there's an objective bounty that Bwipo's trying to pick up right now.
He'll get it.
And there's a possible steal for Santorin if he gets the right eject with his ultimate. He gets the objective bounty, might still have time to TP. 100 Thieves clearly wants to bait for a fight, but at a certain point, you have to be willing to flip.
Clues, I believe, smited the Baron for health. He's going to have another charge back, so don't have to worry about that. And Bwipo is not leaving, hasn't been given a reason to just yet. Going to stick down and try and get even more objective bounty gold. Oh,
yeah.
Going back instead.
100 Thieves peeling off the Baron bait play to stop any extra pushing going on by Bwipo. They have all the turrets for Team Liquid down in the bot lane, except the inhibitor turret, so they can invest some time into shoving that all the way in and make sure that Bwipo has to now make a long track, and that buys more time for those Baron baits in the future, so I don't mind them pulling off there. The cute idea didn't work. You lose a little bit of gold, not the end of the world. Just reset up that vision control and do it again, and hopefully this time, I would say, put some more spears into the Baron to increase the threat of, if you don't come, we actually will just finish this.
It is a small victory for Team Liquid for sure, not having to burn the teleport when the other team had 5 to rush Baron. Team Liquid probably needs 3 or 4 more of those small wins before they would have a realistic fight back in this game, but you take what you can get.
Easier option. 100 Thieves int at Baron, and you get an ace and a Baron. That's an easier path than 3 or 4 or 5 of these.
Yeah, that's one big victory. You can take that too.
I'm a bigger fan of that angle if I'm a Team Liquid fan of. Let's hope that they flip the Baron, like you said, and maybe misexecute.
Yeah.
Because, you know, with a 7,000 gold lead, the fact that they have the Lulu for shielding as well does make starting the Baron over and over again relatively easy to do.
Once again, Team Liquid know what 100 Thieves want to do. Push into this jungle, take out their vision, so they are going to sit around and defend it. But don't have any vision in the pit just yet. Cole's going to fix that, puts a control ward in the back. Also, as a reminder, it is Hex Rift as well, so plenty of possible angles around these big objectives. Dragon's not up for 2 minutes, so we're going to have a little bit of a dance for this Baron while we wait for that Dragon to come up.
I was trying to highlight the jungler. I misclicked there. And
Stopwatch.
Nice. Yeah, well, he also has a chem tank charge item as opposed to this Divine Sunderer. It was surprising me. He went Chem Chunk Chain Sword for the first item. He's fully invested into the Zon item paths. Because most Vi's want to be a lot scrappier, and they want to go for damage. Everyone sees the inspired outplay, the 1v3, and gets all the kills. He understands for closer, my job is primary engage, and so he wants to have a way into the fight that's not going to force him to use his Q right away. So you have the active to pop it, run at them, and then you're a little bit tankier when you're actually in the scrap. So I really like this adaptation by closer for this game.
That's what you're talking about again. They got the spears in, and now Ssumday's actually going to be the target. Bwipo trying to find a hard engage angle, but FBI is going to turn off the Baron with the rest of the team. Closer a little bit low. Now Bwipo's the target, not that tanky. In we go. The bailout will not be enough as huhi going to get credit for the kill. 100 Thieves going to keep on rolling. FBI 1v4 just in the face of the enemies, but they'll take the 1 kill. That's all they'll need.
They take the 1 kill. I'm curious if they go right back on the Baron because they want to be able to blow this game open. If it was just a 1 kill to get them off Baron, that would be a win for Team Liquid, but they now have to go again.
Setup is here. Santorin again has the angle. No blast plan. Control it in the back. Ssumday dealing with it. CoreJJ getting some damage down, but again, the spears in the back of the Baron make this steal so impossible, and it is closer. That secures it. Santorin trapped in the pit, will not be bailed out as 100 Thieves now 10,000 gold ahead.
Good try by Santorin, flashing in there, showed up at the right time, but just not able to sneak that in between Closer, Smite, and the Kalista Ren. Doesn't get that one away. It was a Hail Mary play, didn't work out, and now 100 Thieves, like you said, 10K gold up, getting back onto the map, going to grab their 3rd Dragon before probably setting up and trying to close this game out.
Yeah, those attempted Baron steals against a Kalista plus jungler are so hard because 100 Thieves are picking some arbitrary number above 900 with which to smite and rend at the same time. So you really just have to luck out with your smite if you're Santorin. Watching this beginning one more time, Ssumday is able to avoid the pretty lackluster engage tools the Team Liquid have. The Renata ultimate also would have been amazing if they could get it on Bwipo. That's the window they'd actually have to win the fight, but it goes wide, and 100 Thieves clean up.
Yeah, trying to cut off the reinforcements for collapsing onto Bwipo and just missed it by CoreJJ there. And then afterwards, you know, it's a 4v5. Realistically, you can't win the fight. Santorin, like we said, flashed it at a good time, had a good feel for it, but you know, just too difficult to actually do there. Nice fight by 100 Thieves. Huge gold lead now. Got the waves pushing in the bot lane, mid lane, setting up a 4-1.
Yep, made him sweat, made maybe us sweat too. Santorin certainly has his smite instincts trained after many years, but 100 Thieves gonna be on easy street for this game. They have the soul point now, but I don't think they're gonna need it. Ideally, they're looking to close this game out with the 90 seconds they have left on this Red Bull Baron.
Yeah, and you can actually see them doing a 1-3-1. You don't see this as often anymore, so that means they're generally pushing 3 lanes at the same time. The 3 would be in the middle, the solo laners in the side. You don't see this because usually it's too easy for the other team to just fight on one person, but Team Liquid have such poor engage tools that 100 Thieves is able to push all 3 waves at the same time.
Team Liquid just confined to their base, doing their best to defend these inhibitor turrets, but without an easy engage option like you're saying, it's hard to just try and pin up the, Aatrox in the top lane or hop directly on top of the Kalista just standing in the mid lane. So they're going to finally try and go on Abbedagge, but...
Oh, they might have got him.
Bjergsen found one, but needs more, and there's just too many dashes.
That was the best they can do.
Half health him. There we go.
Yeah.
And again, FTX got advantage overwhelmingly in the favor of 100 Thieves. They're going to take one inhib. They've got one open in the bottom side. They're looking to open up the top half as well. TP back in from Abba just to make sure he can spend the last bit of that gold he's picked up. And Team Liquid going to be forced back towards the fountain in short order.
We're going to get
Poppycopter kicks out too, but tower still falls down. Santorin can't play goalie for long enough.
Yeah, closer with a flank after breaking the mid lane. Turret can kind of wrap around to make it difficult to step up and do wave clear duties. Abbedagge lands a nice chunk. They're able to grab their second inhibitor turret, and 100 Thieves closing this one out clinically, moving their way down to the bot side to take out the third inhibitor.
And man, 100 Thieves has actually played this game so well, holding the prio in all three waves, getting the early dragons, using the Rift Heralds properly, and now systematically taking down 3 inhibitors and less.
FBI very, very angry, goes berserk on his teammates. Closer in trouble, but not dead just yet, and FBI should be able to take over the game. Santorin and the rest of the squad are getting shredded. FBI open up for the triple kill, as it may be a Penta on top of it all. Abbedagge flashing in, gonna take away kill number 4, but more importantly, 100 Thieves back to business. A vintage bot lane performance from them. They will take game number 1.
100 Thieves shut out Team Liquid in game 1. Not a single kill given over. Take the early game draft and just smother Team Liquid.
13 kills to 0, 15,000 gold, and 11 turrets more than Team Liquid were able to fell in that game 1. A dominant opening performance by 100 Thieves.
Felt like they were playing angry. Felt like they had a chip on their shoulder. We talk about them playing that way. Draft all this dominance for laning and say, yeah, we can skill check Team Liquid. Yeah, and they do it. They lay down the law.
And it was early game, but it wasn't like an explosive early game, right? They're not setting up massive dives in top and bot and running over the game. They're not opening up the game like before 10 minutes. They're playing pretty calm. They understand how the different early game functions work. And then together especially, we talked about mid-jungle, we talked about them as a unit. Like, when they started opening up the game, there was just no way back in for Team Liquid, it felt like.
Yeah, you can see Team Liquid walking down the hall right there. No discussion until they get to their team room for sure. No post-game conversations right there because they didn't have that many options, and it's because 100 Thieves didn't give it to them, right? Very small victories throughout the entire early game turned into objectives, turned into turrets, and I mean, that's not a perfect game because they gave up 2 Drakes. That's pretty close.
A lot of them were strategic things too. We're like, we got to kill before the dragon. We're happy with that. You can have the dragon, Team Liquid. It felt oftentimes like 100 Thieves knew what they were giving up when Team Liquid got those kinds of things. And I think for Team Liquid, you grab that draft, crinkle it up, throw it in the trash can, let's start over. And I will say, these series have been like this. Remember, it was a reverse sweep just in spring that 100 Thieves had over Team Liquid. Momentum in these series against these teams can swap so quickly.
Yeah, so that now turns the last 2-year record to 16 wins for 100 Thieves, 7 wins for Team Liquid. Team Liquid's going to have to bounce back.
Certainly will. And while the team's ready up for game number 2, we are going to be heading over to the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you so much, Pastrytime. 100 Thieves taking the lead 1-0 in this best of 5 against Team Liquid. Team Liquid without a kill. Raz, I was just about to ask you for the flip-flops if it weren't for what if it were not for what Mark had to say about the reverse sweep. I was ready to jump ship right away, and so I'll give him another game.
First time. Hey, you want a flip-flop?
I will not.
We'll accept you. Come over to the team.
I do think that they could bounce back with a different draft, but if we're going to talk about draft, and we can get into that, I don't think that it's necessarily it wasn't necessarily the biggest issue. I think they could have played differently to the draft.
Precursor for something we'll look at in just a moment, but I do want to go to Emily on the draft because Emily, this draft, particularly on the 100 Thieves side, gives me inklings of Summer Split champions, 100 Thieves, where the bot lane is the one that they're playing around.
So there were a lot of questions, right, when people were looking at 100 Thieves drafting these really high-pressure bot lanes, like, can they still play around it when they can't do these super early dives? It's something we've been talking about. We also talked about both of these teams are willing to go in on early 2v2s, and in this game, it was 100 Thieves that were doing it with the Kalista, and I think like, I actually thought TL's bot lane played like as well as they could into this matchup on bot side, but this was such a massive difference maker. And then I want to also shout out the Vi pick for closer, but then the Ahri for Abbedagge. This is the pick I think of when he was, again, getting all that criticism early on in the season. He was still a difference maker in skirmishes and team fights with this specific pick.
I wish I could circle right now, too, because the other thing is that Team Liquid have 2 solo lane counter picks.
Yep.
You got 2 solo lane counter picks.
Yeah.
How did the top side of the map go? How did those counter picks go? What sort of prio? What sort of lead? Where is it?
I mean, these counter picks did nothing, and that's where the question has to come in, right? I think that TL just didn't play the counter picks to their level. I think that if you're going to, I actually think that TL's bot lane, even though Kalista was the one that kind of like looked like it took over the game, looked like it did great, TL's bot lane was doing everything that they should have done. Yes, there was an instance where they almost died, where Core almost died, but he saved both his Sums. They were even in CS. They didn't lose any plates, and the failure was actually in the top side. They didn't take pressure off the Ahri.
Yeah.
Like Ahri had full prio. They never ganked her. They never pressured with Sylas. Like
Revenge? I know you have a lot that you had a problem with this, not from the draft, from the gameplay. And actually, while we were talking about it, there was something you wanted to show us. So come over to the telestrator.
Right,
Let's go.
Let's get into part of the game.
My first telestrator.
Exactly. So, of course, this is your first Stay Far Neighborhood Tactics, where you wanted to break down what was the most crucial part of this game for Team Liquid.
Yeah, and so you have counter pick mid, you have counter pick top, and I think top is a lane that should have prio, especially around rift timing. And I think that they should have done a better plan and better fundamentals around getting this rift herald or contesting it with their champions.
And so what you saw here is bot lane that's pushing up for 100 Thieves as we play this through, and they're end up basing. If you want to circle anything, you can go ahead and do it.
So what we say about this is bot's going to have tempo for rift, so they're getting the first base off because they pushed Zeri in. So they're going to be first on this rift herald. If you actually look as well, I believe that mid is going to push this wave right now because Bjergsen's warding right now, the herald. And that's going to give Ahri tempo as well to either fog or even base. And now TL's in a situation where, well, okay, there's also another issue where I think Renata should not have ran bot lane. She gambled that maybe TL's or 100 Thieves' bot lane would stay. But Renata should have probably opened out mid and just to see what would happen so that she could actually help the map and control the area for rift. But now if you see what happens, 100 Thieves' bot lane's here, Zeri's going back bot, Renata's bot. They've essentially given up the rift now, right? And what's really important if you're giving up the rift is actually this mid wave right now.
Okay,
because, sorry about that. So this mid wave right now is really important because if 100 Thieves gets this mid wave, they can now actually go into, they can decide what to do, right? They could go back bot and not have to really worry about a trade. They could find Poppy because Zeri's still like really low in tempo. She's still really late to lane. So TL's actually not going, TL's actually not going to get anything for giving up this rift because they lost this wave. And it's just, after losing this rift and doing nothing, I feel like they were able to break open the game through bot and make the game really, really hard. And this should not really be allowed with double counter pick solo lanes, in my opinion.
So you think TL is strong enough to actually fight for rift here?
Well, yes, they're definitely strong enough in a 5v5 to fight rift, but it's more about what the fundamentals of what they did to be in this situation for the rift. I think that what happened in the solo lanes, what happened with how solo lanes use jungle to actually enable them was just bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what we ended up seeing from this game, it was a really big snowball, constant 5v5s in which, or at least 5-man dives from 100 Thieves. And a lot of it you felt was off of 100 Thieves' ability to send their bot lane through mid lane, just so they don't end up getting any trade, or at least letting Team Liquid go for a trade on bot side, correct?
I mean, 100 Thieves just has fundamentals around objectives that are just really, really good. And it showed this game in game one, and it honestly let them take over the game. I mean, from literally, I felt like in the mid game especially, they were using every single wave to make plays together. And the way they got this first herald was honestly perfect macro.
Okay.
There you have it. I mean, perfect macro again. It's important to point out that that play that was just walked through occurred with 0 kills on the map. So no one had picked up a kill just yet. And still, we do, in a number of ways, see it as the game-breaking play. It allowed 100 Thieves to get back down to the bot lane and get that Kalista rolling.
Yeah, Nadeshot likes to say, take what's not given to you. Or 100 Thieves could just take what is given to you.
That's true.
Thank you very much.
They're Thieves. They'll do it all.
We'll take the easy stuff, too. I like these, too, because these are 2 back-to-back plays where you look at it and you're like, how are 100 Thieves able to send literally all of their players to these sideline plays. It's because they have Prio pushing out on the other side first every single time. Yeah. They're the team making every single move first, and then they end up in these scenarios where, okay, Team Liquid are then catching on the other half of the map, and so they get to overload one side. They make these really easy pickoffs and dives right through. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's so interesting, and I'm glad you, Mo and Raz both pointed this out in their Child Strider segment, but it's also about this. I know a lot of people are gonna harp on the draft, as always, but this draft is not a bad draft, right? It's about how it's executed, and you're looking for these cross-map plays. The only thing I can think of in that early game that TL were able to actually leverage was a Drake off of a reset on bot side. They were able to get second Drake, and that was the only kind of cross-mapping that I can think of that they even were able to attempt during that entire time that 100 Thieves had tempo.
I know I mentioned it on the Telestrator, but it's actually a lot to do with the early laning, in my opinion, in the solo lanes. Like these lanes, Sylas, Poppy, should never have been this AFK, as well as Aatrox, Urgot, and with Poppy. Like, there should have been more action on the top side of the map. Like, something should have happened. Like, there was an instance where Bwipo took a cheater recall top. They didn't contest the top 2v2 on the crash. I felt like Ssumday had a completely free early lane phase as the Aatrox, which just should not happen in this matchup. I just think that if you're going to look to scale as the top side with your bot lane losing and with mid lane having perma moves as well, it's just never going to work.
So while maybe not an objectively bad draft, it was an improperly used draft at the very least on the side of Team Liquid.
Yes, it definitely was improperly used, yeah.
So then my question becomes, if that's not the style that Team Liquid should be playing, for example, don't love the Sylas look on Bjergsen or something like that, flipping over to blue side as you're the guy in the Team Liquid camp and I'm going to charge you with preventing me from flip-flopping. If you were to take the stage on blue side, so they are going to blue side, different change of priority, what's the answer? How do they come back to even it up 1-1?
Well, if we look at a lot of their success and just the players' strengths in general, I think Bjergsen is really, really talented at enabling his team with certain picks like the Ahri, the Talia, even historically the TF, and as well as control mages. I think that these kind of picks he's really, really good on, and I really want to see them deal with the Aatrox. I think that Bwipo does not look like he has a great answer to Aatrox. I actually think that we saw it in the FlyQuest series as well. Like, I don't even think Philip is the best Aatrox in the LCS. You know, I think Ssumday arguably is, and they're still leaving it open. So I really think that they should get rid of Aatrox. They should just take that champion out of the game, put top lane on something else, and put Bjergsen on his strengths. And I think that if bot lane plays to the level they played this game, they're going to be completely fine, and that they should, you know, have a lead to carry TL.
100 Thieves, they get first blood, but as Mark said, momentum can sway in this matchup. We'll see if Team Liquid can strike back in game number 2. Now, having a variety of picks you can go to makes you a threat on the Rift, but it also makes ordering takeout a breeze. Afro delivered Raz some sashimi from Grubhub. Let's see what he thought on Dine With Us. You don't know what a plantain is, but you like.
What's up, Afro? I heard you got something for me today.
Oh, yeah. We actually ordered from Grubhub some sashimi.
Is that your go-to meal?
Go-to meal? It's probably, I love fish in general.
Yeah.
A lot of protein. Obviously, you know, got the carbs with rice and stuff like that. So I'll order it when I can.
Yeah, what's your favorite sashimi?
Favorite kind of sashimi? Obviously, salmon's really good. Favorite, though, I would go with the yellowtail.
Yellowtail?
Yeah, yellowtail.
Okay, this is beautiful.
I'm a big wasabi guy.
Okay.
So always, you know, put a little bit on this sashimi and then eat it. So what'd you think? Sushi, sashimi?
I love it. You could never go wrong with that. So I thought A, it tasted fresh, and B, at least like the variety, maybe one more.
That's true.
This is the sort of pride that gets you in those big moments, allows you to take down giants.